Hello students, it is I, Mr. Mercasa, and we are back, another edition of Mr. Mercasa's Digital Lessons. And the reason why is because once again, we find ourselves back on remote learning. So because of that, we'll be doing these video lessons for you guys as 2-column notes, which you guys are working on during your remote learning. So whatever we got highlighted up on this screen recording that we're doing here, make sure to get down your guys' notes accordingly. So we're working on pages 712 to 715 of your guys' 2-column notes, and this time working about the economies of East Asia. So based on that keyword economies, as you guys are aware, you have different categories you guys are working on 2-column notes on, so you'll be tweaking your 2-column notes and putting it on the economies category. And as always, of course, I'll be using my handy dandy little Promethean tool to highlight different materials that you should have down in your 2-column notes. So that being said, let's get this lesson on a roll. So starting off with your dateline, it says Baku, Azerbaijan, September of 1998. The famous Silk Road is coming back to life. This remarkable path has fallen into disuse in the past few hundred years, except for a few hardy tourists who explore the old trade route. Today, however, representatives from more than 30 countries are meeting to discuss rebuilding the trade routes that form the Silk Road. Many countries and organizations, such as the United Nations, will give aid to the project. Railroads, highways, and ferries will be built or improved in an effort to increase trade among the nations along the road. So why are we talking about the Silk Road? Well, the reason why is because at one time, the Silk Road was the most important trade route that existed in the ancient world. It basically connected China and East Asia with Europe, as well as the rest of Asia, as well as the European supercontinent, all the way to Africa in some cases. And that's because trade was very important for these people during that time period. And they call it the Silk Road because one of the primarily things that were exported along the Silk Road was, as you can probably guess, silk. So let's go and talk about this real quick. So it says economies of the region. Since World War II, East Asia's countries have grown more active in the world market. So that's a huge fact that's been playing since World War II as well. Today, Japan is one of the strongest economies in the world. Consumers in the United States regularly purchase goods made in China, Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea. However, wars, droughts, and internal conflicts have made economic growth difficult for some countries, such as North Korea. We'll talk about some of the factors that kind of create that real quick. So continuing on, as is China's economy. Although this has begun to change, China's government controls most of its economy. So like we said before, China is interesting because China is a country that has what's called a mixed economy. So let me go and spell that out for you guys. This is the only country in the world that has this mixed economy, okay? It has elements of command economy, in which case that the government in this case owns all of the financial institutions such as banks and large industry firms. However, the government also sets the prices for goods and plans the quantity of goods each worker should produce. Okay, so while this is true that it's also a command economy in this sense because the government controls all these facets, it is also got some elements of a market economy, which is the type of economy we use here in the United States, because individual consumers can still make and decide what they want to buy, what they want to purchase. And as China does more business with the Western world, this mixed economy is slowly going away, and China might actually change from a mixed economy to a full-blown market economy. Only time will tell in this case. So continue on. Industry. China has put a strong emphasis on improving its industry. This part is true. It has become one of the world's largest producers of cotton, cloth, and two metals, tungsten and antimony. The industries that have seen most growth are machine building, metal production, as well as making of chemical fertilizers and clothing. Unfortunately, this focus on industry is also one of the reasons why they have such a huge pollution problem in this part of the world as well. Now it says farming. Many people in China live in the countryside and make a living by farming. They use traditional methods such as plowing with oxen rather than using farm machinery. Much of land in China in the deserts and mountainous regions cannot be farmed. Nevertheless, China is the world's largest producer of rice. It's also a major source of wheat, corn, soybeans, peanuts, cotton, as well as tobacco. So that is true as well. A lot of the people in China still farm using some Middle Age technology, all the way from the Middle Ages in some cases. And usually the reason why that is the case is because the land in China is so rugged and some of these areas are so hard to access that sometimes it's just easier just to do things the old-fashioned way just because they can't get certain things like fuel, for example, or electricity in some of the areas that are rural. So because of that, they're still using these older techniques in order to do that as well. So it says other Eastern Asian economies. Taiwan, which is another country there, has a growing market economy that relies heavily on manufacturing and foreign trade. Since 1988, Taiwanese businesses have invested billions of dollars in mainland China, significantly contributing to China's fast-growing economy. And let's go on to North Korea. Like China's, North Korea's government controls the economy. Also, like China, North Korea has emphasized the growth of industry, iron, steel, machinery, chemical, and textile production are the main industries of North Korea. A textile is a cloth manufactured by weaving or knitting. Many people in North Korea are farmers, and they work on large farm cooperatives where some 300 families share farming work. These farms have become more productive as improvements in irrigation, fertilizers, and equipment have been made. For most of the 20th century, North Korea traded with other communist nations. Since the fall of the Soviet Union, North Korea has opened its borders to investment and trade with other countries as well. Now, if it's kind of weird because every single time you guys hear about the news, you're thinking about, well, Mr. Casa, if they have these huge farm cooperatives, why is there a lot of starvation taking place in North Korea? Unfortunately, the reason why that is the case is because North Korea's government is in control of the entirety of the economy with a command economy. What ends up happening is that North Korea primarily takes the food resources that they grow in North Korea and they export it, is what they do. So most of the food that the people of North Korea grow doesn't stay within the country. Most of it, vast majority of it actually, is exported and sold. And a lot of the money is used to fund North Korea's military as well as military technologies as well. So that's the reason why they have so much famine in North Korea, because most of the food doesn't stay there. It gets exported and sold to other countries in most cases. So that's the situation going on with them as well. So moving on with other East Asian countries, with South Korea, the economy of South Korea has changed dramatically since the 1960s. At that time, it was a poor nation of subsistence farmers. Subsistence farmer means that you grow just enough food just to feed yourself as well as your family. Since then, however, the government has supported the expansion of the textile industry and the building of factories that make small electronics, appliances, as well as equipment. The government also helped develop iron, steel, as well as chemical industries. Today, South Korea is one of the world's strongest economies and is a major producer of automobiles and electronics and trades with many countries. And then we have Japan. The government of Japan does not control its economy in the way of the governments of China and North Korea control theirs. However, it does oversee and advise all aspects of the economy, including trade, investment, banking, and production. Like South Korea's, Japan's economy has grown significantly since the mid-20th century. Japan is a small nation with few natural resources and little farmland. Industry and a skilled, educated workforce are vitally important for Japan's economy. And the reason why that is the case is, like we said before, Japan is kind of a small nation. It's an archipelago. It's about the size of California. And so because they don't have very many natural resources, so they got to be very careful with some of the things that they do. So it says here, the country imports raw materials it needs and transforms them into goods for export. Ships, automobiles, steel, plastic machinery, cameras, and electronics are Japan's major exports. So Japan is a huge exporter. The United States is Japan's biggest consumer, although Japan also exports goods around the world and is currently one of the world's largest economic powers as well. All right, and the reason why is because they realized that getting into the exportation business was the main way for them to improve their economy. So you have, you guys, those are the 2 column notes for you guys' textbook pages for pages 712 through 716. As always, you guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me on Schoology or by email, and I'll get back to you guys as quickly as possible. That's good for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys next video lesson. Peace out and stay classy.